Herd and Health is sponsored video content brought to you by MedCity News.
Hello and welcome to Herd and Health. I am Arundhati Parmar, Editor-in-Chief of MedCity News, and I have with me today Charlie Harp, CEO of Clinical Architecture. Welcome, Charlie.
Thank you for having me.
Now, what kind of clinical data accuracies do you encounter when payers and health systems deploy your software in their organizations?
Well, a lot of the stuff that we end up doing is really to take the data and make it semantically normalized so that when they're getting data from different places, it's all combinable, usable for analytics, decision support, and things like that. So a lot of the inaccuracies we see or the issues that we see are that people just didn't map it correctly or they didn't map it at all. But we'll also see things where maybe they're missing a decimal place in a lab result, or they've got the wrong units or no units. And all of these things, basically the main thing that results from that is they just can't use the data. And so when they deploy all these different solutions and analytics and decision support tools, they just can't make use of the data effectively, so they're not really helping the provider care for the patient.
You talked about inaccuracies that can lead to some confusion, if I understood you correctly, but is there an actual potential for patient harm if there are such inaccuracies?
I think let's take patient harm and divide it into primary and secondary effects, right?
Okay.
So I think one of the great things about healthcare is the provider's job is to try to stop that primary effect from happening. So if the data looks squirrely or the data looks wrong, if the provider's there, they can be a safety check on the data and they can make decisions themselves as a human provider. But when you start to make decisions about patients or you start to try to leverage technology, that's where the data quality issue, that secondary effect, can stop the decision support from helping the patient. It can stop the patient from being included in a particular cohort for clinical trials, for case management. And so what really ends up happening is, in my opinion, and I'm not a doctor, what happens is the patient misses out on opportunities to have the technology help them because the data's not there to let the technology know that the patient could use their help. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does, it does. Now, besides payers and health systems, what are some of the use cases of your data harmonization software in the life sciences industry, for instance?
I mean, when you think about data quality, any place where people are using information about patients, whether it's to drive analytics, whether it's to look for people that are eligible for a clinical trial, for example, using your life sciences example. Really, if you want to deploy something like AI to look for patterns in patients, that's all based on the data.
Right.
So when you're thinking about cleansing the data, normalizing the data, harmonizing the data, if the data isn't appropriate or fit for purpose, then really any place, any vertical in healthcare or healthcare adjacent is not going to get the same value from trying to implement the data. And so I think it's kind of a universal thing. Data is data.
Garbage in, garbage out. Right?
Absolutely.